Hi, Pastor Gordon Douglas with today's word from the Word, which is dependence on Independence Day. If there was a flag for every miracle God did in the founding of our nation and the preserving of our nation, we would run out of flags. If you like miracle stories, let me refer you to Miracles in American History by William Federer. There's 3 DVDs just filled with some amazing stories of God's hand in battles and blessings that you just can't even imagine. I'd like to tell you one of those stories now. It has to do with a young George Washington. Before he was President Washington, but before he was even General Washington, he was Colonel Washington in the French and Indian Wars. What's known worldwide as the 7 Years' Wars between the superpowers of France and Britain. A long war in which 1 million people lost their lives. In one of those battles, there was a young guy named Colonel Washington who fought along General Braddock. It took place right outside Pittsburg, Pennsylvania at Fort Duquesne. And in this battle, the Indians were just having a great victory. General Braddock was mortally wounded. On his death, he gave a special sash to George Washington, a sash that Mr. Washington treasured forever, even took it with him into the White House. Washington so revered this general that he buried him in the road, and he covered him up so that the enemies could not find his body and then desecrate it. But that's not the miracle. The miracle is what happened during that battle that Washington went on to be president. Let me tell you that story. I have a target here for when my boys took me out shooting. On the back you can see some of the circles of where we hit the target, and on the other side you can see where the target is. Because in this battle there was an old Indian chief that came and traveled far to see General Washington 15 years after that battle. He had said, "I am old and I have fought many, but I must see that young daring warrior." Because we had 17 of our best shooters, 17 shooters who knew not how to miss until that day. Level at this giant of a man, 6'3", riding in front of his troops, not behind like most generals. And we fired our best shots by our best shooters, and he didn't fall down. It was just amazing. And he came and said, with the word of prophecy, that man cannot die. He is to be a great ruler over a new nation. A people not yet born will hail him as the chief of their empire. Washington looked back on that day. At the end of that battle, the book I referred you to yesterday, The Light and the Glory, has this to say. In Washington's own writings, he said to his brother, "Death was leveling my companions on every side, but the all-powerful dispensation of providence, I have been protected." This conviction was further shared by Samuel Davis, a famous clergyman. He said, "To the public, I point out the heroic youth who I cannot but hope Providence has preserved so signally in a matter for some important service to our country." Wow. Washington also said in his journal, "I cannot believe how God has protected me. I had 2 horses shot out from under me, and 4 musket holes had passed through my vest, and yet I am unharmed." That is amazing. If you read the prayers of Washington, you'll see a man who put total faith and dependence in one true God. His prayers, written in his own hand, are a beautiful tribute to this loving God in whom he put total dependence for his safety and believed that God had his hand on his country. So on Independence Day, I want to remind you, if God is truly to bless America, we must be dependent on him. One nation under God, and we will be blessed. That's today's word from the Word. More tomorrow. Happy Independence Day. God bless.